Feelings are much like waves. We can't stop them coming, but we can choose which ones we want to surf. I live near Redondo Beach. Well, actually, I live in Redondo Beach, and the ocean, if you're watching on YouTube, is right out my window. And every morning, or pretty much most mornings, I go for a walk. And there are surfers out more days than not. And yesterday, I took the time to actually stop and take in the surfers. And on this particular morning, there was this young kid, must have been 8 or 9 at most. His mom was on the beach watching him, and he had his surfboard in his hand or under his arms, and he was running out to the ocean and fearless, absolutely fearless. And then I watched him, and some of the waves he went through, and some of the waves he went over, and some of the waves he just waited for the next wave. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, to be absolutely honest, I am not a surfer by any means. I tried to surf one time in my life. It was in New Zealand, and I was working with Reebok at the time, and they had a partnership with Les Mills, and the Les Mills team decided to take us out surfing. It was really rough. I was not ready, and I tried 2 waves, and I'm like, I'm out, tap out. I'll be on the beach and I'll wait for you. It was not a great experience. And I'm not really a surfing fan. However, that all changed the day I got on a Delta flight and I found the documentary series 100-Foot Wave. Now, if you have not watched this documentary series, I highly recommend it. I'll put the link to the show notes below. I was riveted, and I could not wait to get onto my next Delta flight to watch this documentary. The 100-Foot Wave is a documentary that was kind of covering this very small, sleepy town in Nazaré, Portugal. And it was unrecognized. It was basically a drive-through town. And then this incredible surfer called Garrett McNamara decided that this could be the place to catch the epic wave, the 100-foot wave. Now, it just so happened during my travels in Europe 2 years ago, I was coming back from the UK. I had to go out there for basically a visa reason. And I was coming back into Portugal where I was staying at the time. And I don't even know how I came across it, but I saw that the next day, the situation, the weather was just perfect for these incredible waves for the surfers to ride. So I guess I wasn't the only one to hear this news, but I decided to take the 90-minute car drive to go and visit Nazaré the next day. When I got there, it was packed. So obviously, this was not quiet news. And I got to witness firsthand surfers riding these epic waves. Now, I can't tell you what size they were, but I'm guessing at least 40, 50 feet. Do you know how big that is? That is larger than if I was to look outside of my window and go to the floor, to the second floor, third floor of an apartment building. And I was mesmerized. And if again, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put a little bit of my footage from Nazaré at the very end of this episode. Finally, I'll have some use for the footage. And it was almost like my brain couldn't grasp what it was seeing. So there's 3 parts to this, and I'm really going to butcher this, but there are 3 main components. There is someone on the tower that is radio messaging to the people on a jet ski who is taking out the surfer, and they're kind of communicating from the tower to the jet skier to the surfer when the next wave is coming, when it's safe to go. So there's so many pieces involved. If you had told someone 20 years ago, people are going to be riding those waves in 20 years, you'd have thought they were crazy. So that was my experience of witnessing surfing at its absolute peak in real time. Let's go back to yesterday. So yesterday I was standing on the beach watching this young kid, absolutely fearless. And there were moments he went over a wave. There was moments he went through the wave. There was moments he waited for the wave. There were moments that he rode the wave. And this young kid, he was dancing with the waves. And I thought, what a brilliant metaphor for life. So in today's show, we're going to talk about when to ride the wave, when to wait for the wave, when to go through the wave, and how this can apply to us living our life, our best life, and how we can use it to stop procrastinating and start taking action to move our life forward so we can create a life that inspires and energizes us. So when I was watching this young surfer, and many surfers, but I was mesmerized by this young surfer, when he was going over the wave, I thought of that as like a parallel to us taking opportunities, seizing the moment, going for our dreams. Yes, sometimes it's good to wait, but sometimes we have to seize the moment and just go. It's about taking that leap of faith and riding the momentum. Yet to get momentum, we need to take action. If we're waiting for the perfect wave always and not going for it, we'll be waiting forever. We have to try. That's another thing we see with surfers. We see them get on their board, fall off, and when they fall off, they don't just come back to the beach and give up. They know they turn the board around and they go back out and they try again. So for us to ride the wave, to go over the wave, it requires three things. Number one, it's going for the opportunity. It's taking the opportunity. So many times we've heard this idea of luck is preparation meeting opportunity. But we often miss so many opportunities in front of us because we're waiting. We're not willing to dive in. We're waiting for the perfect wave to come versus going for the wave in front of us, the opportunity in front of us, regardless or not of whether we get up, we ride the wave, or we fall off. So sometimes it's having our eyes open to the opportunities in front of us, going for the opportunity, seizing the opportunity versus waiting for them to always come in. The second part of riding the wave is seizing the momentum and just going for it. I often say the opposite of fear is not courage, it's action. For us to ride the wave, to catch the opportunities, we need to be in motion. We need to choose ourselves. We need to put ourselves into the playing ground. We need to put ourselves into the field, into the rooms where opportunities appear versus waiting to be invited into the room. And if there's not a room for you to be invited into, create your own room. Create a new table. Create a new table where you can invite other people to. Be the one that initiates the change. Be the one that thinks of a new way of doing. Be the one, see the gap, what it is that you need in your life. And if it's not out there, be the one to create it. And then three, it's that leap of faith. It's seeing the wave and going for it kind of before you know if it's going to work out or not. I love this idea. I think it's Bob Proctor that said it. Faith and fear both require a belief in the unknown. Now, I'm not a surfer, but I would imagine when you're surfing, you need to be in flow. You need to be absolutely present. You can't anticipate, you can't worry about the wave that you just missed. And it's when we're in the present moment and not worrying about what may or may not happen, we can operate from a place of faith, the faith that we will show up for ourselves, the faith that it will work out more times in our favor than not. And both faith and fear require this belief of the unknown. And when we're so busy trying to like control everything and anticipate the outcome of the future, well, number one, it's a waste of our time because as we know, the only thing that we can control is the present moment and our reaction to it. But when we can step into our day from a place of faith, of betting on ourselves, of believing in ourselves versus a place of fear, of worrying about, is this going to go right or is this going to go wrong? What are people going to think of me? Is this going to work out? Is this going to be a hit or a miss? When we come from a place of the present moment, what's happening right now, the action we're going to take right now in front of us versus anticipating 3 or 4 steps ahead of us, that's when we can ride the wave. And that's when we can seize the opportunity. And that's when more luck will step in because luck is just preparation meeting opportunity. So yesterday, sometimes this young surfer would go over the wave and then I would see him wait and go through the wave. I'm like, that is so interesting. For me as an outsider looking in, those waves just look the same. But why did he go over one and through the next? And I got to thinking that sometimes we just have to go head on. We just have to go blinders on and through the challenges before we think we are ready. Sometimes we believe we need to build more courage and confidence before we are ready to face our challenges head on and go through that wave, go through that difficulty. But the way we build our courage and our confidence is in action. You've heard me say this before, or maybe you've heard me say this before. Actions of confidence always happen before feelings of confidence. And the way we build our confidence muscle is by doing it, by going through that barrier, by going through the thing that we are afraid of. I want you to imagine right now the last challenge that you had, one that maybe you thought, I don't think I can get through this. This is too big of a wave for me. This is too big of a challenge. But you look back now and you did it. And as you did it, you may or may not have noticed this, you just stretched your confidence. And every time you stretch your confidence, it grows. Sometimes we look at the waves of life as though we have not gone through any in the past. But just because a wave comes up and it might look different to you, it might feel different, where to me from the outside, it looked just like the same wave as before. But this kid knew this was one he needed to go through versus ride over. That's how we build our confidence. But my guess is you don't celebrate those moments enough. Those moments when you went through the wave, when you faced that challenge head on, you grew your strength, you pulled on your strengths, but then you forgot about it. You didn't pause long enough. You didn't sit and wait long enough on your board to really appreciate the person you've become. And every time you go through that wave, you are stretching your courage and your resilience. Now, resilience is something you can't prepare for. It's like that surfer. You just got to go through the wave. And each time you go through, you are building your resilience. You built your resilience during COVID. We all did. Resilience is not something we can practice. We can't prepare for it, which is kind of annoying. But every time you've gone through a hard thing in the past, you've just built your resilience. So think about the next time you go through a challenge, and you will get to the other side. It's not a life or death situation, which if you're riding the surfs in Nazaré, it very well could be. The only thing that's going to be bruised here is your ego. And sometimes our ego can be our worst enemy, but your heart will grow and your ability to ride and catch the next wave will only get stronger. And also think about the mindset that you needed to go through that challenge. You've strengthened your growth mindset. The fixed mindset would be like, that wave is way too big for me. I'm turning back in. I'm going to shore and I'm never going to try this again. But by you going through that challenge, you've just prepared yourself for the next challenge. You've stretched yourself and you're readying yourself for the next big dream that you have yet to accomplish. Now, as I mentioned, sometimes this young boy yesterday went over the wave. Sometimes he went through the wave. And sometimes he just sat and waited for the next wave. Well, that teaches us all about patience. In a microwave society where we see everybody's overnight success on social media, to coin a quote that my mom used to say to me many, many years ago, patience is a virtue. In this world where we are not taught patience, it can be the wisest choice that we sometimes make. Now, not always. Sometimes if we're waiting for the perfect moment, that's not a smart choice. We maybe want to go over the wave or go through the wave. Sometimes if we're waiting for our courage to strike or a motivation to strike or to feel like we're perfectly ready, that might not be the best time to wait. And sometimes when we sit long enough to go, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Is it an anxiety that I'm not ready? Is this an anxiety that I think I'm going to be judged? Or is this a little bit of a nod to me like, Petra, you're almost ready, but there's more work to be done? And with patience, you go back to the drawing board and look at like, what am I missing? What is the little piece here that's going to make me so much more prepared so I can share my best work, not my perfect work, with those who I'm meant to serve? We see this overnight success, but in reality, what we haven't seen are the 7 years of planting seeds, the wins, the misses, the riding the surf, the falling off our board, the getting back up and paddling out again, the hours of repetition, doing the grit, doing the not pretty social media work daily when we don't want to do it, showing up for ourselves when we don't want to do it, showing up for our work when we don't want to do it. That's how we build our grit and our resilience and learn how to play the long game. And my guess is so many people I work with, they give up before that miracle happens, before that overnight success, because we're busy comparing our beginning to someone else's middle. Sometimes the best moments are worth waiting for. And to decide whether we wait or whether we go really requires sitting with ourselves and using our lens of curiosity versus judgment. Like, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Feelings are not always facts, but they can help us. I use my experience as learning how to DJ as an example of when I needed to listen to my feelings and when they were really steering me wisely. So I had learned how to DJ. It was a year-long process, and it was about 2 months shy of me doing this massive event for like 500 VIP people at a huge event that I was known at. So yeah, my ego was on that table and or basically the DJ turntable. And I didn't want to let the people down who had had the faith in me to say, we want you to DJ one of our most important parties of the year before you've even learned how to DJ. I hadn't even gotten the equipment at the time. So I was about 2 months out and I had this nagging feeling that I wasn't going to be ready in time. It wasn't about being perfect, it's about not being ready. And I knew 2 months was a long enough time to figure out what it was that I was missing, but I could have ignored that feeling as like, oh, you're just being the old perfectionist you. But this was not about that. There was something missing in my skill set. And so I called up my mentor and I scheduled 3 more times to go down from New York to Washington, D.C. before the time I was going to go to Toronto and play this gig. And thank goodness I listened to my intuition. Because the first time I went down to my mentor, he was like, yeah, you're playing a good set, but you've perfected a set. This is not DJing. You've kind of put one song after the next. And if I asked you to put a song out of sequence, you wouldn't know what to do. And then he asked me a follow-up question. He goes, Petra, if you put one of these songs on and it doesn't resonate with the dance floor, are you going to just keep going because this is the only set you know how to play? Or do you change your mind and you put on what the dance floor wants, not what you thought was the perfect playlist? And during our time together, I had mixed 2 songs perfectly. And I thought he was going to say, you're amazing. And in fact, he just stopped the deck and said, okay, mix those two in a different way. And I didn't know how to. Thank goodness I had followed my intuition, because then what I had to do in those 2 months was unlearn all my bad habits that I had built over the past 10 months and then relearn what it was to be in the moment, not anticipate, right? Not anticipate what the audience might want, but be in the moment and be able to react to what was happening in that moment, react to the dance floor, the wants and the needs and the desires of the people on the floor. And that's what created the magic. And so having the patience to sit with ourselves and really listen to, what is it? Are we ready to go now? Or do I need to wait a little bit longer? Not to be perfect, but to be really proud of what I ship. As Seth Godin says, it's got to be good enough to ship. Do your best work. But then at some point, when we've had the patience to sit with it, we then have to let it go and ride the wave so we can get the data and the feedback to know whether we need to iterate again. It is like a dance. We are in a dance with life. We are the surfer dancing with the waves. Sometimes we need to ride the wave to get the data. Sometimes we need to go through the wave to get the data. And sometimes we need to just sit and get the data from ourselves. What are my feelings trying to tell me? Is that nervous feeling, is that anxiety, or is it excitement? Is the idea of me not feeling like I'm ready, is that me just wanting it to be perfect? Or is that data going, yeah, no, maybe I do need to do more research. Maybe I do need to do more practice. Maybe I do need to finesse this just a little bit more, whatever your thing is. And then the last parallel, if you look at the documentary, The 100-Foot Wave, the one thing that comes up over and over again is mindset. And as surfer Bethany Hamilton said, life is just like surfing. When you get caught in the impact zone, you've just got to get back up again, because you never know what's going to be over that next wave. It's our mindset. There are going to be moments when we fail. There's going to be moments when we soar. There's going to be moments when we disappoint ourselves. But life is just like surfing the wave. Whether your 100-foot wave is asking someone else out on a date, whether your 100-foot wave is starting a podcast, whether your 100-foot wave is traveling solo, whether your 100-foot wave is going out for dinner on your own for the first time, or going to the movies for the first time. It's just like a surfer. Courage doesn't mean that you won't get afraid, but courage means you won't let fear stop you. So this week, I invite you to see, where can you go over the waves of life? Where do you need to go through the wave of life? And where sometimes you need to just wait and get more patience. And as a Hawaiian proverb wisely reminds us, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf.